very hot microphone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to Haymarket House. Welcome to the Blue Hour. Give a round of applause for yourselves for being here. This is the Chicago Poetry Center's first foray into having the Blue Hour here and live and in person. We are also live streamed. Wave to the people at home. Hello, people at home. We love you. All right, so we want to start off with a little land and labor acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge that this event is being hosted on the unceded traditional homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, such as the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sauk, and Fox, also called this area home. This region has long been a center for Indigenous people to gather, trade, and maintain kinship ties. Today, one of the largest urban American Indian communities in the United States resides right here in Chicago, continuing to contribute to the vitality of our city and to celebrate their heritage, practice traditions, and care for the land and waterways. We invite you to explore the unceded homelands on which you find yourself as well, and to take this moment to honor all who came before us, the Indigenous peoples displaced by colonization, as well as those who built this country through uncompensated and compulsory labor, those enslaved and those oppressed. We honor those who came before and all those who continue to live on this land as we hold this shared space for art and expression. So a little bit about the Chicago Poetry Center as we move into tonight. Our mission is to connect people to poetry, equitably engage poets with communities, and foster creative literacy in the city and beyond. There's lots of information about our programs out in the lobby. Hopefully you've already perused it and scanned the QR codes and signed up for all kinds of mailing lists. We have programs in education. We have our Critical Conversations anti-racism program. We have the Blue Hour. We also have the brand new Queen Z's Poetic Adventures, which is theoretically for kids in like 2nd to 5th grade, but maybe a glass of wine and a nighttime, and you're like, Queen Z, yes, 5 and up. Exactly. 2nd to 5th grade and on. So do check it out. It's totally free and amazing. Great. This is the Blue Hour. Like I mentioned, we do have a workshop before this, which does sell out quite quickly, so register ahead of time. Our reading series schedule, October 21st, we have Deepika Mukherjee and Willie Lynn, which will be hosted by our own Helena Chanzar. That'll be super fun. November 16th, we'll be back with Carlos Cumpian and Jennifer Scapatone. And then December 21st, we will have our year-end poetry party. So we'll have a community open mic, lots of hanging out. We probably won't be in the garden because it'll be cold, despite global warming. So anyway, sign up for the mailing list. So wonderful to see all of you here tonight. So we have 2 amazing readers for you tonight. Just so you know, the Chicago Poetry Center has been running a reading series since like 1975, long before a couple of people in this room were born, it continues obviously today. One of the traditions we have is having a paired feature set. So we're going to start, Faylita, I don't know if I told you you're going to go first, but you're going to go first. Cool? Excellent. Awesome. Good deal. Faylita Hicks is a queer Afro-Latinx activist, writer, and interdisciplinary artist. Born in South Central California and raised in Central Texas, they use their intersectional experiences to advocate for the rights of BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ people. They are the author of HoodWitch, published in Acre Books. Here's the thing. They don't have any with them tonight. It is a sad, sad situation. But you can get it online. Yes? Still? Okay, great. So, Run order it online. Sorry, I lost my place. A finalist for the 2020 Lambda Literary Award for Bisexual Poetry. The former editor-in-chief of Black Film Collective and Borderlands Texas Poetry Review. They are a voting member of the Recording Academy Grammys. Hicks is is also the recipient of fellowships and residencies from the Art for Justice Fund, Black Mountain Institute, the Tony Award-winning Broadway Advocacy Coalition, Civil Rights Corps, the dots between Jack Jones Literary Arts, Land Literary, Texas After Violence Project, Tin House, and the Right of Return USA. Everybody loves Faylita. They work their butt off to get all this. They received a BA in English from Texas State University, San Marcos, and an MFA in creative writing from Sierra Nevada University. They are recently relocated to Chicago, which is our joy and blessing. And I immediately was like, oh, wait, you're coming to Chicago? Do you want to do art? Immediately upon your entrance. And they said yes, and I'm so, so happy. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Faylita Hicks. Sit, you can stand. All choices.
I'm gonna stand because that's what I feel like doing. Thank you. Move this right back here so I can grab it quickly. Can we all hear me?
Yes.
Are we good back there at the computer? Yes. All right. I'm gonna set my timer because I am renowned, and I'm going to start with a poem that is in HoodWitch. This is the cover, so if you're wondering, this is the cover. This is the very first reading that I'm doing in Chicago. The last time I was in Marty's house is when I was very pregnant. My friends adopted this beautiful child, and now I literally live 15 minutes away from this child. And so we're going to take you on a journey of Chicago for me and why I had to come here. Okay? First, we're going to start with the Titular poem for HoodWitch. Hashtag hallelujah to the HoodWitches. To the shellac clapbacks and neck roll snaps of sisters who snatch tracks and ditch ditches. Hashtag blessed be to they two small kitchens. Blessed be the Dollar Tree gumbo. Blessed be the Cokes and hot Cheetos. May God smile down and rain money on some of us bitches. Hashtag I'm different. Descended from the truth eaters. I swallowed Sarah Sahadi bought me. She buried herself in the slips of my hips, and now she lives in all the mirrors of my apartment. Now she pats me on the belly and begs for me to feed her. So I search me out the rude boys, you know, those thick two-headed oxmen. Cook me up some fine soup roast, sweet potatoes on parchment, and then I sucks me down in moxtails. Girl, I cost them. Hashtag blessed be to the HoodWitches. Hashtag blessed be to the HoodWitches, to the snapbacks and double backs of queens gone pedestrian. Hashtag blessed be to their children's children. May God smile down and watch over the black naps and snatchbacks of black women dragged into the system. Of black women survived outside the system. Of black women survived despite the system. Hashtag Ashe, Ashe to my sisters gone missing, to their daughters and granddaughters, to our mamas and grandmamas. Hashtag Ashe, Ashe to the crowned and uncrowned, to those above and below ground. Hashtag black girl magic is real. Hashtag black women matter. You know we do. And whenever I say it, I mean hashtag me too. I wanted that to be the first poem for Chicago. Yeah. I got my whole little bag here because I didn't have enough time to put everything together. This is the long devotion. This is an anthology about people giving birth and mothering and parenting and all these things. This poem is in this anthology. I just got it this week, so I had to share it with you all. This is The Birth Mother's Red Bath for Courage, which is included in this book. With spoiled milk seeping from its many small brown mouths, my body twitched loose, the dead skin snaked around it, dripped runes in the doorway, heaved bullet after bullet into the tub, but did not die. There are claw marks and hot grease stains where things came through. Signature survival signs etched around my belly, at the hinge, in the crevices, all of it evidence I did give birth to something. There was a killing here of a kind. Something is lost now, forced from a room in me. Something is stifled in this body. I have become a deconstructed basket of rose-colored towels, singing on the hospital's floor. Some nights, I think this body must still be calling out to the child that tore through it, or trying to forgive itself, forgiving itself over to the strange and inconvenient truth that not all mothers are mothers. Some mothers are war, an enemy of their own desires. Some mothers are graveyards, a field of want buried beneath other fields of want. Some nights, I think this body must still be praying to a God that has long since slithered away. So, this book does contain spells. There is one specific to a man named R. Kelly. It is not a spell, it is a hex. I'm not going to read that one tonight. Normally when I do the reading, I leave room for, if you don't want to participate, you can leave. But tonight I want to get through all my stuff, so I'm going to check my time. I need to go faster. This one was written after my very first time to Chicago. It was 2011. I was on tour for the first time. My fiance died in 2010. In my grief, I turned to poetry, and I threw myself all the way in. And I said, I got $500. I'm going on a national tour. I'm going from Texas all the way to New York. I had nothing booked. But people would see me at one spot and book me for another city or in another state. Chicago was one of those places. And the people who I stayed with while I was here, my friends, I did not know would become the parents of my child a year later. But this poem was written based off of my very first time to the city. When she young, black, and bad, I love this city for its weeping. How the city grieves when it finally remembers me. How it follows me for a block, then jogs up the stairs after me with an eye for my pelt. I've never felt so wanted. How at the sight of my toothy grin, it clenches its leather bag against its tightened sinew, as though it is trying to pull me in onto the L, where the people agitate themselves into pint boxes like cattle. Graze on the parched faces of the lonely and the underpaid traveling up from down south. It knows that I am always hungry. How the people of the city hurry past the paralyzed children to get to the colorless widows who still grieve out in public with their hands smelling like takeout and pussy and me. How the people of the city aggravate the traffic with their bodies, throw themselves into intersections in front of bent yellow-bellied hoods, just trying to get closer to me. I love that they march head-on into heavy here, that they do not fear their own death. They fear this shine. All right. So one of the things that I always do is try to share the work that I've done. I come from poverty. In 2010, I was arrested. I spent 45 days in the county jail for a bounced $25 check to a local grocery store. I am the first person in my family to go to college and graduate, and I still somehow ended up in jail. I could not understand it. I still don't understand it, and it still hurts. And you wouldn't think so. It's been 12 years, right? But it happened a month after my fiance died, almost 6 months after my friend Gabrielle Boulain died. Grief. That's 2010 for me. And understanding that the carceral system interrupts life. It interrupts all of your dreams. It interrupts all of your feelings of safety. It interrupts everything. And it can happen at any moment. I was grieving and I was interrupted. being able to work with all the organizations that you so gratefully read, thank you. And being able to move here as a gift from the Art for Justice Fund, it would not have been possible. And I'm trying to work on transparency, and I want people to understand that. You see that wonderful bio, none of that fixed my financial problems, okay? 6 months ago, I was living in my car. I came to visit the kid in Chicago after not seeing the kid for 3 years, and now I get to live here. Now I get to be here in front of you. Now I have clothes, I have food, it's wonderful. But it's still happening, right? This project, which was done as part of Civil Rights Corps, my fellowship with Civil Rights Corps, the project itself was about translating policy in a legible way, right? We know that legalese is not meant for the everyday person, even though we're meant and expected to follow it. Like, how am I supposed to follow something I don't even understand the language of? And I decided that I didn't want to look at all the ugly of legislation. I wanted to focus on love. And so this is the cover of the spoken word album that I recorded and wrote last year. It's called A New Name for My Love. Inside, and you can download this, it's not available again for sale, but inside are original digital art pieces of real people that I know who were previously incarcerated, or previously detained, so on and so forth. I just want to show you some photos, but now I'm going to read to you part of the poem that I wrote specifically for the In the Exception piece of legislation that was introduced. It's the Abolition Amendment asking to completely remove the 13th exception, right? So this was written for that piece of legislation specifically. Check my time. A New Name for My Love, Part 1, a liberated acrostic for Civil Rights Corps. My timeline is fading to black. Black screens, black fists, black faces on black backgrounds. My timeline is a matter of life and death, and I can't see for all the black digits dialing back the number of days since the last Black life mattered. My daddy, my grandmama, my cousin from Cali, all of them have got a thing for black flags and hashtags. A new name for our black love, Baldwin. The fire of a queer black man followed me into a jail cell where I slept like Black Jesus for 45 days and 44 nights in a cage lit up by the literature of a people snuffed out again and again by the wayward words of a legislator. And let me tell you, Satan has nothing on a man possessed by manifest destiny. Satan has nothing on a man obsessed with the pursuit of life, liberty, and property, but not with the pursuit of justice for those people living and hustling in my community. It's also one-sided like history. A new name for my love, Lord. A power drowned out by the confetti of invasive policies, digging down into my kind's drawers, sneaking into my kind's bedrooms, under the mask of morality, trying to tell me how my lifestyle and my body are wrong. Lord, they wrong. I slept for 44 nights at the feet of a man dreaming in inequity. Audrey, Lord, I slept for 35 years at the feet of inequity. My queer black femme body is a highlight reel of tenacity. My queer black femme mind, a catalog of actualities. My queer black femme, a lineage of perseverance. This is a new poem. It's called I Tried Dating Again. Do we all know it? I tried dating again, and I did, I really did, but pandemic, the way the pandemic was set up, a lot of stuff happened, and due to me not having a car or having resources, I pretty much just stayed inside of one room, which was my bedroom since I had a roommate, and I also was like, how am I supposed to date when my entire feed is about legislation that's trying to kill me and people who are actually being killed and marches and marches and marches? How am I supposed to focus on falling in love in the midst of all of this? And part of what came out of that was this poem for Breonna Taylor. I tried dating again. I tried dating again, like the doctor said, but I don't think I'm ready. They have made this black body a war I never asked for. The dirt of my skin is peppered with dozens of dying stars. My hands over my head and tied to the eclipse is becoming as rank as old meat from a lockdown market. I do not love what they've made of me. Every time I open my eyes, the swell of my shadow surprises me. I do not recognize this bloated core, these sagging nipples rippling tight back into my softened apple. I do not recognize the dimpled back half of me, or my crooked spine, or my broken toes. I do not recognize the stern brown blade over my eyes, or the chapped mouth, or the wagging elbows. In the mirror is an imposter, a liar. Every morning I ask, what happened? Where am I? What happened? Who are you? But whenever the imposter leans to answer, a car hurls out through a crowd of teeth, up and over the crease of their lips. Indigo goes an eye, cardinal goes the other, and all I can hear is a siren, followed by a mother's tears, followed by a siren, followed by a father's tears, followed by a siren, a siren, a siren. Did you know the once warm soil of my skin would be enough to grow a guillotine from? Apart from my mouth, this beating body, the heart of the year you were buried, is all that remains, and barely. Here is my mouth, love, stained, to rinse suck out my lyric, the last of our memory in my chest in a pistol blue. It is all that remains at the end of this decade, auxiliary. With his sweaty and sun-choked evenings and afternoons in which I made my cavernous silhouette, a swirl of sound and suck, there a kiss, here a medley, but everywhere, everywhere where I knew you last. Every morning, every shower is a new eulogy in your name. If my sex now were an affirmation, it'd be no peace, no peace. How every black death in the news reminds me of the last time I was loved without requirement. I no longer love to see my body like a bruise on the mattress, like the only place for their pain is somewhere rooted in me. I have gained 95 pounds. I gorged myself on 87,600 hours worth of news. My chin is heavier now with bullets pulled from dozens of my sisters. My love, I am nothing like the black woman you once met by the water. Swimming in my fat neck is the music of the deserted. Their verve, swift and sudden, rushes through the notches and nicks of my cervix while I sleep. I go to the mirror, and she is not me, and I am not her, and we are not ourselves. I cannot remember where I left myself. I cannot remember which pocket I stored your ashes in. I cannot find my candlesticks or my lighter or the stone that I came from. I cannot even remember where I am supposed to be right now, let alone what it means to love a pistol, emptied of its ammunition. One more little rap poem, then we're gonna go on to the next thing. This is Thieves. I rap too. I did the rap thing. A lot of people don't know that, but I'm very grateful because starting in spoken word back in 2003 and going through this journey of touring and doing gigs for $50 and like just being constantly under the fear that I won't get to live my dream out, which I am doing right now actively, be encouraged by that. I just became a committee member for the songwriters and composers of the Texas chapter for the Recording Academy, which is a big deal for me, just because, again, like, oh my God, I can do that as a poet? We can do that? We're allowed. This is Thieves, and I'm not gonna play any music, I'm just gonna try to get to it. As hazardous as walking around with a hoodie in his smell, taking a test. Congressman, it's a matter of fact. When the plague came to town, the people had to scream and shout for just a scrap of supplement, something just to keep them fed. When the world faded red, while the people died in their beds, Bezos made a bag, so did every billionaire. But not a drip, not a drop, made it down from the top. Protected by thieves, depends what they never get got. And it's a cycle that we gotta stop, no doubt. If only we can save us, trust us, we gonna get the neighbors. Vote for those legislators who can see us as the prophets that we are, and not just numbers numbers on the paper. Mitch McConnell, you Congress sick with Donalds, come up out the shallows. Aren't you ready to get what you deserve? Aren't you ready to serve? Just meet us outside, because we're about to go live like this country's prime time. Give me your bag, this is tax, bump a trickle, I'ma flood the hood with that, remove the schemax of you devious cats, stealing suckers from babies and daddies from families, filling graves with the hungry and the underpaid. Give me the bag, this is snatch and grab, a legislative mad dash, time to reverse the lack. We choose the coffers over coffins, essentially we're clocking out, we about to put an end to the drought. That's all. All right, now I gotta make hard choices so I can stay on time. Another big thing that you should know about me is I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I was also the first person in my family to get a master's degree. And the fact that I told my family in December of 2009, I was standing with Gabrielle Boulain outside of the Austin Poetry Slam, and I was crying because I was telling her that I had applied for this master's program. My family told me that it's time for me to grow up and get a job and get real. And I wanted to go and write poems. And I got into this program, and it was supposed to save my life, and it did not save my life. In fact, it tried to kill everything. I was told in my first semester, in my first MFA class, in my first workshop, that I didn't deserve to be there. And this was the paper, American Poetry Review was the first magazine that I saw on that desk in that building. And I can tell you with certainty that not a single professor, not a single student, not a single person that I know that has gone through the program ever made the cover. Wow. And so, I gotta read one from here. I'm gonna read something that my best friend that I've known since I was 11, I wrote the poem, published it, and when it got the cover, I was like, hey, so there's a poem I wrote about you, about the crush I had on you. And she was like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I was like, I had a crush on you the entire time. And so I just need you to know that it's out. So she was the first person that I showed the magazine to. But she also is the one who came all the way from Indiana, and I know that's not that far, but like came from Indiana to be with me while I gave birth. And while I was literally in labor and they're about to take me in for the C-section, I'm like, give me the lipstick and give me the mascara. And she's like, why? I was like, I need to be beautiful for this child. I need the child to know that hair. And so like she acquiesced to all of my requests. But this is a poem for her, and this is a poem for all of us who are asking questions. Bonfire Brides. The embers of 1,000 years uncovered by the hand that fondled them when they were fire will stir and understand. From Emily Dickinson's 1383. Remember when we hurried ourselves into the evening sacral blaze? Our cold-covered bridal gowns drenched in the long silver of our mother's years. Our hearts ceaselessly sucking on their stars long dead. Our laughter pouring out of us like a sacrifice to age and weather. If we had known what lay beyond the gates of our hooded child, would we have even left? Would we have so happily run out into the inflamed morning with our fist and query and hunger, should we have stayed? Sister, do you remember when we wanted God? We're all tendril, sweet-cheeked for heaven. Do you remember when we were sick with Bible verses and hymns, our mouths overcome with hallelujah, our mouths slowly sewn into the crooked neck of every sunset? Do you remember the place where we laid down our child shapes and grew out our hair? Yours, an unrelenting wave slipped from the bed of your precious scalp down into the loop bone of your back. Mine, a cacophony of glitter and grease leaping from the barrel of my hungry scalp to arrive restlessly around the pillars of my ears. Do you remember the place where we skipped? Two girls chasing themselves across the lake's green and warm lid, off into the untested fields of prairie grass and unchecked verbena. The place, remember? Where we learned the dissonant lean of every foot worn into the unpaved pathways, somewhere outside of Dallas, where we skinned our knees, running after pink-fisted kisses from sons who back then hung a praise before our names, where I buried my first dead, a bird I found at the lake house, where we swore to never be like our mothers or our fathers, where we swore under God's morning light. to be more like the comets falling in our cabins night after night. Do you remember where together we came? From a yard full of Jesus, where he was under every wooden plank, every split stone, always guaranteed to follow us home. Jesus, we thought we'd have more time. Jesus, what happened to time? I blinked and we were in love, then out of love, then child-shaped again, then not, then the both of us alone together, the both of us crying into the empty of our kitchen sinks. Jesus, how did we get here again? I have one last poem for you all, if that's all right. Trying to get the thing open. I wanted to end with the work that it's also really prescient that this is being held here. I have 2 new books coming with Haymarket. I am astoundingly excited because of the work that they do as well as the work that I want to do in terms of guiding public opinion and thought and question about our legislation. My book that I'm working on, the next book of poetry is called A Map of My Want. And this is not just about sexual desire. This is not just about legislative desire. It's about what it means to be human, all the things that we want at all the times. I want more wine and whiskey in my life. I want more joy and laughter. I want to connect with people in a genuine way. This is a place that I came to in 2019, which is the last time I came here before I moved here. There is a place off of Printers Row. It's a church. It doesn't look like a church outside, but it's on Printers Row. It's a church. And inside of that church, I met with people from the Detention Watch Network. And this is formerly detained and previously incarcerated people. They brought us in from all over the country. I was the only Black person. I was the only person who has papers to be here in America, North America. I was the only person who had been previously incarcerated. Everyone else had been previously detained, trying to come in. And so this is the opening of A Map of My Want. This poem is called The Slash and Burn Method. It's an epic, so I'm only going to read you a few parts of it, okay? I'm going to jump around. 1, do we know what the slash and burn method is? It's an agricultural method that you can do to technically make things fertile, but after a while it doesn't. That's the short and sweet of it. 1, slash. In a quiet hall beneath the church in Chicago's West Side, too many of us stand in a circle and wait for introductions. Some of us with our headphones on and our fingers crossed, others with our eyes on the trays of food. The radio on my hips burr, pitches, hums, condenses until I can hear clearly an enunciated whisper clapping through. Hello, my name is, and I want to thank you all for being brave enough to be with us today. Brave, as in willing to be seen in the sanctified light some have been burdened with this morning. To be noticed for what we are all previously incarcerated or detained. We hope that you'll share, but if not, the walls sway or the people have been swaying or the room is turning counterclockwise and we are all back in our cages, smaller versions of ourselves, all of us having fed our ghosts fresh fruit and pan. We acknowledge that we reside today on the traditional territories of the 3 fire peoples, the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Badwadmi, on the land purchased after years of open warfare, decades of violent encroachment and the defeat of pan-Indian movement to keep settlers out of the Great Lakes region at the Treaty of Chicago in 1821. The area was also a site of trader gathering and healing for more than a dozen other native tribes. We are silent. We too are familiar with the decades of violence, war, and treaties in the West. We are familiar with Chicago, gathering, and tribes who need to heal. Please choose a direction and tell us your name, your pronouns, and where you are from. I want to choose every direction, know the words in every language for every gender I am, explain that I don't know, and I know where my blood first got cut. I choose instead both of the chairs known as the West Coast. Watch as the rest of the circle splinters, some to the far east over by the bathroom, others to the far, far west next to the coffee, some to the south where there is no sun. Hi, the interpreter whispers. My name is, I go by she, her, and I am from Guatemala. She is a savant of transitions, having come across two Americas twice. She says the first time she came alone. When they put me in the detention, they didn't know. They put me in. I told them I am a woman, but they put me alone. They said it was for safety, but I was alone for months. The second time they put me with the men, and it was horrible. Do not call us by our dead names. My sister yells to the border patrol agent, her mouth falling open, overrun with the smoke of lavender, a woman still wearing her sex long and large between her legs. She is underloved, but still alive. She exists. Una mujer, una belleza perdida, another born running loose in the Chihuahuan desert. And her name is a mirror of names flooding the prayers I receive hourly via inbox. An email from the activist named Susana says, la violencia, el feminicidio, me siguen sin cansarse, dentro y fuera de wars. Este huma saba afrábica, ven acá mijas, nos vamos por la mañana. The violence, the murdered women, they follow me without getting tired, in and out of waters. This smoke tastes like a factory. Come girls, we're leaving in the morning. It has only been 7 days since she sent the message, pero where she exists now, no sé. 2, burn. In San Marcos, Texas, I'm en la lucha con mis hermanas porque the city is a river of college students destined to be swallowed by the rural expanse of the Guadalupe. After another deportation, after another unnecessary arrest, in protesta, we float outside of the federal building, the county jail where I too was buried, in la lucha against the waves of the recently shipped, the waves of the soon-to-be drowned, and the waves of white faces swimming happily in and out of the front doors. In this war of mar y sol, we are all largemouth bass. Our tongues flipping back and forth between dos idiomas, porque what happens to our people happens to us, and what happens to us happens to our people. We are all still living at the intersection of legal and barely legal. In Texas, we know the words to NWA's fuck the police. When we meet up at Buzzmill's 24-hour bar after the rally, after the county commissioner's court decides to deny us the public defender's office for the 3rd year in a row, we put it on replay. Chinga la policía. Chinga la migra, chinga la policia, chinga la migra, chinga la policia. We are a festival of the county's most wicked, dancing, drinking, and chanting long after the music stops playing. Thank you so much. Shall we breathe? Yes. All right. Our friend Gabrielle Boulian, who Faylita mentioned, said in a poem not long before she died, she said, take it from someone who's already half angel, don't you dare waste your time. Google it, watch the whole thing and weep copiously. But I was thinking about that as sort of the hinge into our next poet. And I hadn't really thought about this as we brought these two poets together, but they are these two poets who understand that we cannot waste our time. That what we are dealing with right now as a world, as a country, as a city is immediate, is essential. As we can come to poetry to understand that more deeply. So I'm so excited, I'm so grateful to Faylita for joining us this evening, and so excited to bring Hila to the stage. Hila Ratzabi's poetry has been published in Narrative, Alaska Quarterly Review, the Adroit Journal, the Normal School, and elsewhere. And has been anthologized in the Bloomsbury Anthology of Contemporary Jewish American Poetry and Ghost Fishing and Eco-Justice Poetry Anthology. She's the author of There Are Still Woods, which is out on June Road Press, and the chapbook The Apparatus of Visible Things.
She's the recipient of numerous fellowships, including the Willapa Bay Air and the Crater Lake National Park residencies. She's also served as editor-in-chief and poetry editor of Storyscape Literary Journal and holds an MFA in poetry from Sarah Lawrence College. I smile because I went there too. She is currently the director of virtual content and programs at ritualwell.org and lives in Oak Park, Illinois, with her partner and 2 children. She's also a recent Chicago transplant. You might be sensing a theme. Please, Chicago, welcome Hila Ratzabi.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Marty, and thank you, Faylita, for those amazing poems. That was so beautiful. I should probably bring this closer to me. Yes. I gotta project. Okay. So this book, it's been in progress. It took a while. I've been writing it since probably 2012. The poems were first inspired by Hurricane Sandy. I was living in Philadelphia at the time. I'm from Queens, New York, and my parents were back in Queens. And I just remember the experience of those days. It was like 3 days of just kind of sitting at home and waiting and watching the news and wondering what was going to happen. And, you know, my parents were fine, but obviously a lot else wasn't. So the poems started to come out of that, and then they just kind of moved and blossomed into a lot of different directions. And at the time, I started applying to a lot of different artist residencies. So many of the poems in the book actually were written in a number of different places. Some were in Philadelphia and some were in a couple of the writing residencies. And this one, which is called Imaginary Arctic, was written because I had been accepted to the Arctic Circle residency, and I didn't go in the end for a couple of reasons. One, it was actually a little bit expensive, and you had to like raise money to go. But also, I thought I was going to start to have a family around that time, and we were trying to get pregnant, and then seemed like the timing was going to work out that if I got pregnant, it would have collided with the residency. So I chose not to go, and I did get pregnant. But then I thought, well, I still have to write something about it. So this is what came out of that. Imaginary Arctic. On the trip I didn't take to the Arctic Circle, I was eaten by a polar bear. I was pregnant and fell into the sea, and the embryo froze. I was stuck on a ship with a bunch of artists for 2 weeks. I saw icebergs the size of God's head. I wrote letters on frosted paper, ate granola bars, and sweated under layers of polyester and fleece. My eyebrows hardened. Everything melted in time-lapse speed, and the ship rose by inches each day. The sun never set. All that daylight did nothing but brighten the surface of loss. Where there were shadows, photographs were taken. Sketches drafted in snow, music sifted from silence. On that trip, I wrote poems to the disappearing planet. I saw the poles melt together, houses float past on united seas. It was a new earth, a wet one. We waved from the hull of the ship, and the others waved back from windows in their flooded living rooms. Some were left bewildered, hands pressed to glass. We made passage through archipelagos that dotted the sea like cracked smiles. I took glaciers home as souvenirs. I planted my face in the snow. Google Earth. Airplane wings dip into clouds, piled up like mountains. Earth cut in rectangles of green and scorched brown. Water apportioned below, snaking through golf courses, into swimming pools. Trees huddled together in squares. On the ground, roofs keep us from looking up. One day, there will be no rain. One day, we'll be able to Google Earth from somewhere else. We will see pictures of alligators, Everglades, frogs. We will part the clouds with our hands, look down at all that wildness sectioned off. We will reach our arms to the bottom of the sea and pull out the stringy-haired gods. They will blink green eyes as the salt water drips from their algaed heads. They will shake their faces as the earth trembles, looking at us for the first time. So I kind of went off on a thing somehow. I started to read about certain goddesses and spirits, and they started to kind of find their voices and ways into the poems. And this particular character started to become a symbol of the earth kind of absorbing the violence and destruction that we're doing to her, and kind of how she might respond. So this is called Sedna, the Arctic sea goddess, and she is a goddess from the Inuit tradition. And I won't tell you the whole story. There's a lot of different versions of the myth. It's really intense, but you get enough of it, I think, in the poem to understand. Sedna, the Arctic sea goddess. The men fashioned their bitch goddess into a fat girl, daughter of Anguta, creator god, angry dad. In every legend, your father throws you to sea. You cling to the kayak, he cuts off your fingers. You drown. Your fingers become seals, walruses, whales, creature fingers sprung from sea blood. You leash your seals, hold back fish in your silky palm, till the hunters hunger so much they send shamans to wash and comb your hair. Only a man's goddess would lose use of her hands. Only a man's goddess would withhold food in exchange for praise. No wonder you rage at the bottom of the sea. No wonder you explode with hurricanes when man's heat sends you to a frenzy and you shake your stump of a fist at dry land. So this one is Sedna in space, and there is an object in space, really tiny, that's out beyond what we used to call Pluto, and they named it, the astronomers named it Sedna. We'll see why in a second. Sedna in space. Now you're nothing but a dwarf planet at the edge of the asteroid, formerly known as Pluto, neighbor to demoted planet, atmosphereless, stunted. The scientists ran out of Greek and Roman gods, so they settled on you, big bad woman, as one tribe puts it. You are water, methane, nitrogen, ice, frozen all over. It takes you more than 10,000 years to orbit the sun. I want to place a blanket around your shivering surface, tuck you in surrounded by stars. Where I'm from, we've released so much heat into the sky, it's burning us back. But I can't turn up the heat at your edge of the solar system, can't drag you any closer to the sun. From your corner, the sun is a wink of a star, so small you could block it out with the head of a pin. Just look what a nothing it is next to you, big girl. After Sandy, Queens, piano on the sidewalk, SUV balanced on a fire hydrant, stairway without a house, Virgin Mary in the sand. Brooklyn, goldfish bowl without its fish, rotting meat at Fairway, child sneaker floating in a basement, woman's body under a tree. Manhattan, cars floating down Jane Street, waterfalls at Ground Zero, woman in a bathrobe doing a cartwheel in Times Square. Jersey Shore, roller coaster dumped in the ocean. Haiti, rivers of mud and cholera. Puerto Rico, man swept away by swollen river. I'm thinking about Puerto Rico. Just praying for Puerto Rico right now too, with Hurricane Fiona, and thinking about that. So this one is called Prepping, and it's where I decided to imagine if I were one of these preppers, which you've heard of the phenomenon, people who are prepping for the end of the world. I'm not actually one of them, but as a poet, I'll go there. So, I'm sorry that I didn't send this one, I slipped it in. Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Prepping. How many sweaters? How many cans of soup? How much water for how many days? How to fit the toilet paper, batteries, and gun? How to choose the essential from the non? How to get music on the weather radio? How come tweezers? How come gloves? How come safety goggles? Safe from what? Why a pickaxe? What if it rusts? Why a dust mask? Dust from what? Is the flashlight waterproof? Is your heart screwed on tight? Did you remember to pack the cats? How many books can we take? How long before hunger eats our trust? How long before night shuts its lid over our heads? How will I find you in the bluest dark? Call me when you're on your way home. I found a signal hidden in the first old cell. I'm laying out your socks across the kitchen floor. I'm making a fire for you. I'm ready. Come home. The ice is breaking. Okay, now it's a little intense. Sorry, guys. Okay. Prayer before turning on the news. I know, it's like it only gets better from there. I sit before the TV screen, remote control in hand. I want it to stay this way. This dark, quiet room, without a world in it. This nothing, this sweet nothing. The fire truck toy on the shelf. Look how it saves no one. In this room, there is nothing burning. Dear God, it is possible. You are the one with wings. Shelter us. Let something have been fixed today. The deal among the nations signed. The guns, all of them, taken away. A woman believed, a man contrite, a border covered in dust. God, I need to know what happened to those who tried to cross. What happened after the storm and earthquake and fire? I can't be everywhere at once, but you can. How can I convince you we are worthy of miracles? How much longer can I delay the inevitable knowing, the daily ritual of witness? At least bear it with me, dear God. Come sit on the couch. Put your feet up. I'm making tea. Tell me how this will end. Tell me if there is a chance. Or maybe we can bargain for peace. Trade for redemption. Give me something, anything, before I let the messengers into my room. I will not look away. Promise me you won't either. Okay, we got into the God section of the reading. A lot of God stuff in here. How to pray while the world burns. Go outside, find a patch of grass, sand, dirt. Sit, kneel, place a hand, or just a finger to the soft earth. Feel it pulse back. Open your palms and divine the words creased between. Rub the specks of dirt between your fingers. See how they cling to skin, how they listen in their soft, rough way. The earth will hold you better than God can. God could not stop the bullets or the sale of weapons. God could not block the open synagogue doors. Our God is trapped in the poisoned grass, where the blood of our brothers cries out, where the ants heave centuries on their backs. Pray to the God who sharpened the tiger's teeth, who stored the roar in its throat. Pray to the God who gave you lungs and tongue to sing and groan and hum. I swear to you, when the leaf shivers in the wind, you have given it chills from all its listening. The earth hears your prayer. There's nowhere for God to hide. Get down on your knees and let this precious earth soften for the weight of you. You are held. You are heard. The wind pulls its blanket over your back, smooths the hair from your face, touches your cheek with its cool, trembling hands. Okay, so many of the poems were written at all those residencies in different places before I had kids, and then I had kids, and I was like, no more residencies. Okay. So, real life, job, kids, all the things. So this is a little bit about that. The names of God. When do you get to think about God? When the child's nose is dripping onto your breast and you've sunk into the rhythm of your own voice, humming a song you can't remember where you first heard, at the end of a 12-hour day of this, rocking back and forth with a pinched sciatic nerve, as the child snorts and rubs his face on your skin, and you both surrender, staring at the twilight out the window, the glowing blue promise of dark, when you sink into the physical moment of holding, rocking, somehow being rocked. And you try to remember why you started writing in the first place, how you used to sift through the names of God, trying to find the one maybe even you could pronounce, as the child moans one long syllable. There is no time now to think about God. And anyway, you have accidentally made a prayer of your two bodies by the darkening window. So this is another one that's post-babies and reflecting back to one of those times on those blissful artist residencies where I just got to walk around and be in nature and like write poems every day. That was nice. And then it stopped. Okay. Fingerprints. I stood at the edge of the bay, knee-deep in seagrass, and disappeared. Not yet a mother, not needed on either side. I settled into the rustle and slipped between sand and sea. The world was still willing to pour its visions into the barely formed wrinkles around my squinting lids. I sat in the grass, held the water and light in suspension, came very close to the edge of darkening blue. Now my body is bitten by little teeth. Now my son awakens in a thirsty stupor and drinks what my body gives. Was I more porous then or now? We walk outside. He touches thick leaves, looks back to make sure I've seen what he's seen. I have and I haven't. I don't know what that first touch of green feels like to the newly lit mind. I nod and smile as if I'm in on the secret. I once knew that time at the bay, the sky opened wide and I lifted. I dipped beneath the veil of landscape and flickered between this world and that. Forget, remember, forget. I left my fingerprints all over eternity when I returned to this world. Just a couple more. Let's go to this one. Way at the end. Is it at the end? Where is it? There it is. Element. Under the curtain of the Sitka spruce, I stand dumb. Beneath my feet, a stony language, buried in green. And the birds, I can't handle the birds, urgent chirps behind my back, grass lined up in lowercase L's, italicized by the wind. The cloud opens its mouth, breathing vowels and light. I will never get over the earth, how each element invisibly accommodates the next. It looks so easy. I think I could do that. Stitch air to grass, slip into water, spin dervishly in the wordless wind. And this one is called Willapa Bay, and it was written at Willapa Bay. The artist residency, Marty, was also there, not at the same time. It's too bad. Although we probably wouldn't have gotten any work done. I think we would have just been chatting the whole time. Hi, Jose. Thank you to Jose for bringing my books. We won't talk about that. We forgot the books. Okay. Anyway. Willapa Bay. The 3/4 moon is tipped in the sky, still sleeping. Seagrass bristles, fulfilling its duty to the wind. I tip my head to match the angle of the moon, as though my ear could pull a tide from myself. The inner wave is calm, but broils below with a gratitude I'm careful not to drown in. What to do with it? Wind, weeds, water, earth? Now I know why they call you mother. How the tall grass waves in all our languages. Goodbye. Hello, help us, help. How even when we go, the earth keeps us here. How living is nothing but a flutter of wings. The wind's one note catches in the branches of the great Sitka spruce with an effortless acceptance that opens some bowl in me to that sound. How can I walk away from this place that traces sky, mountain, water, wind in one seamless line? How can I walk away when I'm choked with the voice of the mother, parched from reciting the list of the dead? How can I walk away when the perfect horizon is killing me with a crazed love? Let me stay, let me stay. Let the cougar stalk, let the black bear roam. Come, come, beasts of earth, in your armies of fur and horn. Let your bodies rage us down. Make your nests in the abandoned house by the bay. Raid the fridge, ruffle up the beds, let the land grab begin. We are not sorry, we are over. Let me stay, let me go. I'm the earth's. I am wild from the future's howl. Cry, cry, crows on the shore. What have you heard? What have you seen? Tell me what the bay said when you insisted. Tell me where you've hidden the bones in the field. I'll just do one more. Thank you. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this, but because my spouse arrived, this one's for him. Better listen. Okay. No, he knows this one. Okay. Crossing the Tappan Bridge, the day before the end of the world. Before the waters fill the bridge's mouth, before the metal cathedral liquefies, before the bolts explode like broken elbows, before the wind sinks into the sizzling sea, before the sun looks us straight in the eye and says, "I told you so," before my purse fills up with junk, and I can't find my keys, and the fish can't find their gills, and the ghosts have no place left to haunt, and the rest stops are flooded with soggy French fries, and all the used water bottles will never be empty again. As the dead owl by the side of the highway stares up at the darkening sky, one wing raised straight into the air, guts wide open like a slow yawn. As I hold my toes on the gas pedal on the Palisades Parkway, and I turn to a gas station on the New Jersey Turnpike, and I hold my notebook in my hand, I think if I can keep one poem going long enough, I can slow the end of the world like a leashed beast. But the afternoon is tilting, and the cars are speeding in both directions, and I'll soon be late for dinner. And before we lose all the time we were given, I hop in the car and rush home to you, my love, waiting in the quietest room of the house, your hands still warm in your lap. Thank you.
Closing round of applause for Hila and Faylita. Thank you so much. Round of applause for our fantastic interpreter, Avila. They're signed up to be with us all through the season, so come back for the poetry and for Avila. Feel free to hang out for a little while. Please buy books, sign up, look for information. To all the introverts in the room who, want to talk to other people, a great question is, what was your favorite line? All right, so I give that to you. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again in October and November and December and all the months after. Have a wonderful night.
The yard is open too.
The yard is open too, if folks want to hang outside, or you can hang in here, either way.
You can get to the yard straight from the kitchen if you want. It's lovely, there's lights, you can grab a drink and hang out there.